Welcome once again to an Unreal Engine tutorial. This time we are going to continue on with the weapons we worked on way back, probably near the beginning at this point. So to start with, let's have a look at the weapons we have. We have our assault rifle, our pistol, our shotgun, our sniper rifle, and our rocket launcher. 4 of these are functioning because we're just using a line trace. And if we open up our weapon base, we can see that line trace in this function here under fire weapon. And if you haven't got that open, double click on the functions down here. So this is how most of our weapons are functioning. It's just going to do a line trace and do damage at the end. And I won't spend too much time on this because obviously we want to move along, but there is an update I want to make to this. The moment if we click play and pick up what we already have this weapon, if I shoot this weapon, you can't hear anything. I've got sound turned on. You can hear the footsteps. You can hear the enemies detecting me. So let's go and change that. Over to weapon base again, and inside this function, let's go and get a play animation node. We're going to need a target for that, so let's drag in our skeletal mesh. As a bit of revision, the skeletal mesh carries over to all of these. So when we're referring to this skeletal mesh, it's referring to all the skeletal meshes for every weapon, assuming that we're using the same weapon base as the parent blueprint. So this is the parent, these are the children. So this is going to work on all of our weapons, as we've done with this function here. Let's drag out of skeletal mesh and type in play animation. And just get play animation right there. And then we'll plug in our executable, and that is going to be step 1. Step 2, we want to give that an animation to play. But if you have a look in the weapons folder that we imported, mine are in imports and over in military weapon dark, there are actually animations all the way down here for every single weapon. And I want the weapons to play their specific animations. So back up to weapon base. This needs to be a variable that we can edit in every child instance of this blueprint. We can't promote this to a variable just by right-clicking and hitting promote to variable. So we're going to have to go the old-fashioned way about this. And we'll click on the add variable. We'll call it anim fire, like so, because we're going to have other animations that we could potentially use via variables. Then let's hit the drop down and type in sequence. And we have anim sequence here. If we select anim sequence there and hit compile, and then hit the drop down menu, now we can program in our weapons animations, and we can attach this here. Obviously, we're not going to put anything in for base weapon, because our weapon base is only here to hold all the parent code. So let's compile and save that. Back over to the test map. Let's now open up our individual weapons over in weapons underneath blueprints. So opening up the assault rifle, I can see here that anim fire is ready to be fulfilled. And I'm going to type in rifle fire. So it's not called assault rifle in this anim pack. It's just called rifle fire. And don't get confused with the FPP animations here. These FPP animations are for the arms. So we want fire rifle W. And if we hover over, it actually tells us where that is. So we can see in that path that it says military weapon dark. So that's the one we want. So we select fire and we hit compile and save. Now let's open that up using the magnifying glass here to open that asset. And it's already started playing, but the creator of this pack has already included a muzzle flash particle effect and sound effect, all part of this package. And if we go over and hit play now, our weapon is firing. But this time with effects. So we have essentially almost a full package of effects. We have footsteps, we have our enemies, which are coming and giving us a hard time, as well as a noise when they find us. I couldn't have timed that more perfectly. And then when I shoot, I'm getting that as well. So let's finish that off. Over to the test map again. Let's open up weapons, open up pistol, click the drop down, type in pistol, fire. And there's our fire pistol. Let's hit play, press Q to switch weapons. And there is our pistol sound effect. We're going to do all of these weapons. Shot, shotgun, fire, compile, save. I'm going to move these enemies off the map so they're not distracting us right now. In fact, I might as well just delete them for now, because now when I hit play and I walk over to the shotgun and I press E to pick up the shotgun, there it is. Finally, we'll do our sniper rifle. Fire, sniper. There it is. Compile, save, hit play. I'll run up to the sniper rifle. There it is. Now, while we're in here, there is something else I want to do, and I'm not sure if we'll get around to using it in this video, but we can close our individual weapons for now and go to weapon base. Inside of weapon fire, I want to get the return node. And with that return node, I want to add an output. That output will be simply called success. And we'll plug this in and tick that. I also want to copy that over and paste it down here to this branch. And I'm just keeping them up here so you guys can see where I'm putting them. So at any point of failure, we're not going to have that ticked as success, which means that if we're firing our weapon and then we want to do something afterwards, such as that cooldown, we're not going to have that arrow where the weapon hasn't actually fired, but we enter cooldown. And if we open up one of our weapons with a cooldown, for instance, I believe the shotgun has one, we've put in this stopper here, and I think I remember actually saying this, that we'd come back and find a more elegant solution for this. So we will enter cooldown even if the weapon isn't firing successfully. Instead, we can put a branch here, connect that branch like so, and now we're not going to add 4 bullets if we haven't fired successfully, but it's a much cleaner script and gives us a lot more freedom to do what we want. We don't have to ask specific questions like, is clip actual there? We can just use this branch to determine whether we should be doing this or not. So we can compile and save that. And we can do the same inside our sniper rifle, which has more of a traditional cooldown. I should have probably used this as the example. We're only going to enter cooldown if we have successfully fired. If we haven't successfully fired, there's no point entering cooldown. The next thing we're going to do over in weapon base is have a look at our reload weapon. We're going to do a similar thing here, except that we are going to need to move this guy out. What's essentially going to happen is we need to set this boolean as false only after the animation's played. So let's follow our usual. Let's drag in skeletal mesh, type in play animation. And we can duplicate this anim fire and call it anim reload. We'll drag that animation in. And that's what's going to happen after our ammunition's been sorted out. I'll just put a reroutable here so that's not crossing over. And in the same way, we want to add to this return node, this time, 2 variables. The first is going to be, as you guessed, success, because there are times when we don't want to do anything if we haven't been successful reloading. Tick that there. As I mentioned, we're going to do this afterwards. Unfortunately, we can't put delays in functions. I'm sure if you spoke to the engineers at Unreal Engine, they'd give you a lot of good reasons why you shouldn't put a delay in a function. And some of you who already know about macros might suggest that I use a macro instead, but I want to keep this simple for now. So we're going to keep them all as functions for now. So I'm going to leave this here, reminding us that we still need to do this after. So we'll plug that in there, compile, and save. Over in the event graph, we can see that that's been added. So let's hit B, get a branch. So let's get our is reloading now. And we want to set that to false, but if we set it to false immediately, then there was no point. So let's get that delay. Now with the delay here, we could set a generic time and just kind of hope for the best, but all of our reload animations are actually different times, and I want to have this delay represent that. So let's go and get our anim reload times, and we can do it inside the function again to keep it as clean as possible. So now that we have is reloading on the other side, we can get rid of that. Let's drag in our anim reload, drag out, type in length, and we'll get sequence length. Add a variable. We'll call this anim time and change it to a float. And we'll plug that in there. Another reason I don't want to send it out of this function is because now the two times I'm referring to this as a variable are both in the same place, and I don't have to think about them in different places. So I'm trying to keep the instances of the variables together. So we'll compile and save that. Over to event graph, let's drag off anim time, plug that into the delay. And then if we fire, then we'll delay before setting is reloading to false. Back to the reload weapon, let's copy over that return node. And if the trigger is pulled, then we'll select false. If we're already reloading, then it will be false. If our clip is full, then it will be false. And if we don't have any bullets in our weapon, then it will be false. Another suggestion, if you were so inclined, you could use an AND node here. And I do this in my own project, but I want to keep this simple for you guys. With this AND node, you can add pins. So you could add all 4 of these, and I'll just show you the example. So you could do this if you wanted to, push everything into one branch. The first reason I have done it like this is obviously for the tutorial, but the second reason is because if you needed to troubleshoot something, you could put a print string at the end of all of these, as we discussed in our last tutorial. So without this, if something was going wrong, say the is trigger pulled or is reloading was going wrong, I couldn't test them individually. But I have done this in one of my own personal projects before, so feel free to do that, and in which case you would only need to use one return node. However, there is no performance penalty for using more than one return node. So let's compile and save that. Over to the test map again. Let's open up our assault rifle and hit the drop down. Let's type in rifle reload, and you can see rifle reload hip. And if we were to hit the spyglass again and open this up, there are our sound effects playing. So let's see that in action. Compile and save. Hit play. I'm going to shoot, and then I'm going to reload. And you can see that happening. Now, our arms aren't doing anything because our arms need to be a separate animation. And that's a little clunky because obviously the same guy or girl who made these amazing weapons didn't make the arms. So we're going to run into a problem in the future where the animations won't line up. Ideally, you would have the same animator working on the arms and the weapons, or at least talking to one another. But you'll probably want to get your own animations in the future anyway, so it's only a problem for this tutorial. But we're going to cross that bridge next time, and next time we might even get that rocket launcher up and working. So I'll leave you guys to put in your reload animations for all your other weapons here, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.